But for me, it always comes down to what we started this entire podcast with, is that idea of like when your heart falls in love, you know? And so I'm not saying that you haven't had that happen, but I think that some of the things you're describing there, like with the guy selling the sunglasses, like maybe the annoying guy begging outside of maybe an annoying drunk guy begging outside of a store or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, like I enjoy those things or, you know, I'm immediately like, you know, holding that guy in my arms, you know, but like there is a difference like between this like initial encounter of like there is an ugliness and a smelliness and a like a disgustingness of Christ in the poor. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that the poor are disgusting, you know, this has been my life, but like to not acknowledge that there is a stench, like, you know, like it's just, it's foolishness. Like, you know, what happens is that when we move beyond what we see, you know, that like, well, of course, if I saw Christ, I would serve Christ, but I don't see Christ right now. I don't smell Christ right now. I don't, you know, like my senses are pushing me away from this person. But what happens, like that changes everything, is like when our heart like falls in love, when our heart breaks, like all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and there's just been times like for me raising our family, like we were just talking about this, about this a couple of days ago with one of my kids who's older now. Like we would have these two, this couple, Jimmy and Lydia, they were like a homeless couple. They would come a lot of times to Christmas, Thanksgiving at our house when my kids were growing up. And there was a sense about them that was like, there was a certain smell, like it was just this BO and nicotine smell. Like it was the smell of poverty. Like I feel like if I could think about locally here, and they were one of them was pretty severely schizophrenic, and I remember one time the woman Lydia asking me to shave her face like with a razor after dinner, you know, because she like had a lot of like hair on her face, and I remember like I just for whatever reason like it was a really difficult thing for me. Like we were on my front porch and I was shaving her face, and you know, like there was just like everything naturally about me was like repulsed. It was like, this is so disgusting. And she smells bad. And I know they had bed bugs and, you know, all this kind of stuff. But like they're ultimately like, and it wasn't just like a, you know, an immediate thing, but like there was like a falling in love process with this person that, you know, I feel like I really did encounter Christ, like even in her mental illness, that sometimes like I think we have to lean into a little harder as people who don't now you I feel like you live in an area of town like where you're going to encounter people that are different than you, and that's like what I like about not the suburbs, you know, like is like I hate when you go to a suburbs area and it's like there's a neighborhood that says like from the 220s up or from the 400s up or from, you know, it's like not only do you have to not live around people that aren't like you, but like the people in the exact like economic bracket as you live in your cul-de-sac, you know. Then the nice thing about living in a city like and living where you live is that you're gonna be forced to rub elbows, you know, like with people that are different than you. Yeah. And in that, I feel like it is a long-term thing, you know, like I think the greatest thing that we can do to really experience Christ in the poor is to have long-term relationships with the poor and with the neighbor. And sometimes it isn't the physically poor. Sometimes and I'm not saying to the extent like you said, like, well, sometimes it's just our kids, but like, here's an example. Like when I was living on your street, when we were first starting Vagabond, at first I just had this tremendous itch to like, we gotta like do something radical. We were thinking about moving to Africa, then we thought about moving to Mexico, and we're all this kind of, we were going back and forth. When do we do it? Do we do it this year? Do we do it next year? You know, how are we going to do it? And I had this horrible thing happen where my neighbor, literally my next door neighbor to the left of me, I saw her and I was going out to my car the morning after we were having this big long discussion. And she said, she's like, Bob, I don't want to say her son's name, but she's like, my son last night, she's like, he tried to hang himself. and I had to cut him down from the ceiling, and I saved him, but she was crying, and I felt like it was like such a one of these moments like where you're like, my gosh, dude, all I'm doing is like fantasizing about being in Africa and, cuddling some, kid in a village with rice, when my next door neighbor is literally dying. Yeah. Like I see him every day. He's drinking a beer when I get home from work or get home from the store on his porch. And I may go up and talk to him once in a while, but like, here's someone literally the Lord is saying like, hey, why don't you talk to this guy? He's 18 years old and he likes talking to you, and maybe God is really working there. I feel like those are those moments like where Jesus is saying the sheep and the wolves, like this is one of those moments where Christ like needs us and doesn't need us to just run in and put on YouTube or read a book or, it's like there. So I don't know. I mean, I go in a lot of different ways there, but like what I'm saying is I think the big, like the things you're saying, I don't think make you like a bad, like, oh, well, this is actually, like you'd be a fool not to acknowledge like there's some really messy things that come with loving the poor or loving the homeless, loving, that kind of a person. But I think what changes everything is like when we really ask the Lord, like, do it in here, and show me, like, let me look with that kind of a vision and let this part of my heart like become engaged so that it's not a task,
If you like that clip, be sure to like and subscribe. Cheers.